Welcome to the Catholic Charities Netsmart training video. I will be your instructor for the day. My name is Robert Manfredi. Sit back and enjoy, because today you're going to learn how to use the Netsmart Avatar product. Welcome. Our goal today is going to be to start the Avatar product, which is the Netsmart product name, and second, to learn about the user interface, how we navigate through it, how we open forms, how we can look at the scheduler, and how we can bring clients up. For right now, I'm going to launch it, here I am at my desktop, by clicking Internet Explorer. So here's Internet Explorer on my desktop. I'm going to double click to start it. And this is your standard web page. I have mine default as Google. Now, I can launch by clicking on my launch bar here to get myself to the avatar screen. Now, the only thing that matters, you can have this under your favorites, which would be over here, or you can type this address bar line in yourself, which most people are never going to do. But the bottom line is you need to get to this web page, all right, which we will supply for you, and then click the Start Avatar button. Once we click this, we have a flashing box that appeared here, and at this point, I can actually close Internet Explorer, and Avatar is going to open up in the background. The only reason we needed Internet Explorer was to launch the application, to start it up. Once we've initiated that, Internet Explorer no longer needs to be operational. Alright, now it's asking us for 3 questions. One is the system code, and for this test purposes, I'm going to be going into UAT CD Live, and for mental health people, you would be going into UAT MH Live, and the chemical dependence people will be doing UAT CD Live. Now it's very important that this is typed in uppercase, because if you type it in lowercase, it will not work. Your username is the same username that you use for any of the applications within Catholic Charities and to log into Windows. So for our purposes, since I'm logging in as a front desk person, I'm going to be logging in as one of our front desk people over in Comac, actually Hampton Bays, and I've typed in her username. Again, that must be in uppercase. And now the password. Your password will be in whatever case you have saved it in. And then click the sign in button. Takes a couple of seconds and the Netsmart avatar screen will now appear. This screen is what we currently are having the front desk staff utilize. This screen may change in the future and will likely change in the future as we add in more controls. So let's take a quick look at the different areas and segments of the screen. The first thing is, this is a launch bar, or a bar that will show us all of the open screens that are in the system. Right now we only have home, and we're seeing what's called the home view. This screen with the client and staff widget, the forms widget, and the coming in today widget, these 3 widgets, and a widget is basically a rectangular area that allows you to either perform a function or view data, but with these 3 widgets, we are able to launch other forms. We're able to look at clients. We're able to bring up a client chart. We're able to do a lot of work within the system. Now, right now, there are no other forms open. If there were, we would be seeing them along this top bar. What do we have next? We have courses, which we're not going to be using. Preferences, which we'll probably not allow you to see. Lock, which is very important. When you're using the system and you need to walk away from your desk, you can lock it and come back at a later time by logging in, and you will be left off right where you were, and you will not have lost any data. Sign out is when you're done for the day. Switch, you will never use. Help, while this is able to launch a help screen, which brings you back to an Internet Explorer help screen, it makes more sense for you when you're in a particular screen or form to be able to launch the help from there because it's context sensitive. So if I'm on screen X and I want to see the help for screen X, well, I click the help button on that screen and the help will be associated with what I've got. BUST, that's the user ID that I'm connected to right now, and the X in the upper right hand corner will allow me to close the application when I'm done for the day. So let's take a look at our three widgets. We've got the client and staff widget here, and if we look at staff, for you, you may or may not ever see anything under my staff, and once we look at this now, I'll ask you never to look at it again because you will never be able to do anything of value there. Under clients, since you are a front desk person, there will be no clients listed here. There may be recent clients, but the way that you look for clients is using the search screen. The search screen is actually case sensitive for things like aliases, but we'll get to that in a moment. So if I wanted to see if Jones is in the system, I can type in JON, and a pop-up box appears with 3 Joneses. The more letters you type, the more narrow the search, the less items you get, which makes sense. So off of this, I can see that there are 3 Joneses in the system, and if Robert Jones was the client that I was looking for, if I double click, he will go under recent clients. So this is a method by which I can use the search screen to find a client. He will appear under recent clients, and then from there I'm able to use him during my session. At the end of my session, when I log out or shut down, my recent client list will revert back to blank or null, and I start fresh with my next day. Right now, since I have Robert Jones there, if I double click him, this will bring up the chart for Robert Jones, and we can see that we have the ability to launch additional forms, or more precisely, look at the data associated with particular forms that have been entered previously. I can look at forms that are episodic, I can look at NICE forms, I can look at caseload information, and I can look at documents. And we're going to talk more about this later. For right now, I want to go back to my home screen. If we look up top, we can see in this header bar, we have the home button, which we saw previously, but we now also have a separate button for Robert J, which is really Robert Jones, because it's only showing the last initial. So I'm going to click back to home to bring me back to my home view. And if we notice, I can go back right to where I was in that chart by clicking back on that button. Right now I want to go back home, so I will click the home button. Now that I'm on this form again, let's see what our capabilities are. Well, we saw that we were able to search clients. Now what we didn't say is which clients can we see. The system is going to restrict you to only seeing the clients within your program. Not your building, but your program. So if you're in chemical dependence, you will only be able to see and bring up from this screen the clients that are in chemical dependence, even if they're in a different office. I will not be able to bring up clients that are in mental health or anywhere else in the system. This is the Forms and Data widget. There is a list of a number of forms that I'm looking at right now that are considered My Forms. The My Form list will always reappear for you every time you log back into the system. You have the ability to search for forms down here at the bottom, just like you did previously for clients, but in this case for forms. So if I look for a form that says, for example, NICE, and I type in a few letters, I can see that there are a number of forms that I can see that are over and above the forms that appear up here. So what is this My Forms list actually showing us? It is showing us a list of the popular forms that you're going to be using most often. But there are additional forms that you can have access to that you can get to by typing them in the search window. If I wanted to go to one of these forms, if I double click on the form, it brings me through the wizard that allows me to bring that form up, and ultimately, if I have the proper rights, to be able to enter data on that form. Since I don't want to do that, I'm going to click cancel at this point. And let's look at this form list another time. What we see here is a number of forms that are the popular forms, and we also have recent forms. Recent forms work very similar to how the recent client list looks. And that is, as I open forms by searching for them, they will appear under the recent forms only if I submit and save the data. This list will clear itself out when I log out of the system and start fresh, completely blank, the next time I log in. Looking to the right, we have a Coming In Today window. And this widget allows me to see the staff that are the clients that are coming in today. As you can see, this list is blank because the day that I'm doing this demo, there are no clients coming in to this particular office. We have modified the Coming In Today widget so that it restricts the clients that you see to only being the clients in your particular building. So if you're in the Bayshore office, you would never see the people coming in today in the Freeport office. It would only be your particular location. Now, let's talk a little bit more about forms. We said that forms were the ability for you to enter data. Forms are also the ability for you to view data and print reports out. So that's a little bit of a different concept than most of you may be used to. Most people think of forms as the way to enter data. But under the Netsmart terminology, a form is also the ability, or gives you the ability, to launch or open a report. So forms are both for input as well as output. Additionally, we are able to open multiple things up at once. So let's try doing that. I'm going to bring up the scheduling calendar. Now the scheduling calendar is here, and by clicking it I could open. But I want to show you again that under search forms, if I start typing some letters, I can bring up the scheduler, and again, for SCHED, for typing those letters, there are 4 different forms in the system that match that name. And if you also notice, it's not only looking for the leftmost character starting with SCH, it's finding it anywhere within the word. For example, client weekly schedule, it found that form as well. Since this is the one we want, I'm going to double click it. In doing so, I am now launching the scheduling calendar. Now, if we look at this screen right now, this is just going to be a very quick look at what the scheduling calendar looks like. And if we go back up to our header up here, we can see that we have the home screen, which we can bring to the foreground. We have Robert Jones's client chart, which we can bring up. And we can go back to the scheduling calendar, which was the last screen that we brought up. With this scheduling calendar, we're able to do lots of things, and we're going to talk about that in another training video. But for right now, let's just suffice to say that I'm able to bring up multiple staff at once, or in the case of Wayne, I'm going to bring up just a single person's calendar, and I can go backwards and forwards through time, and we can see all of the appointments that Wayne has been scheduled for during the week. So as we can see, for this particular clinician, he's had multiple appointments scheduled across the different days over the past several weeks. At this point, I'm going to close this screen, and for this screen to close it, there's a dismiss button at the bottom. I'm going to click that now. So, let's take a look at what we've learned. We've learned that the home screen appears after you log in. We know that for the front desk staff, this is what your home screen looks like, and we anticipate that it's going to be changing to have more valuable controls appearing as we develop them. We also have different home screens for different roles, people that do different things at the agency. So if you're a clinician, you're not going to see this home view. You'll be able to have the staff and client widget. You'll be able to have the forms widget, but the coming in today is not appropriate for the clinicians, so they're going to have some other controls which are more appropriate for their job responsibilities. We also know that you have the ability to close out of the application by clicking the red X up here, which becomes red when you hover over it, as well as to sign out. If I were to sign out, that probably isn't the best use for how I would use the system. I would want to click the red X in the upper right hand corner to exit my session for the day. So at this point, I think we're going to end this demo. I'm going to click here and I'm going to close out of Avatar. Now, it's giving me a warning that I have forms open. Normally, you always want to close these forms. And right now, there's only one form open, and that is the chart for Robert Jones. So I am going to, are you sure you want to sign out? I'm going to say, no, I do not. I'm going to go back to his chart. I'm going to click a red X to close the chart. Now I'm going to exit out safely. You never want to close the system when you have forms open. The main reason behind that is the data does not save as you are working along. So unless you completely close a document, you will not have saved the data and data will be lost. So you don't want to do a very long treatment plan or an IAP or an assessment or even a progress note. Think you're done with it, but you haven't saved it yet and lose it by exiting out and closing the form prematurely. Are you sure you want to sign out? I'm going to say yes. I'm back to my home screen. And at this point, we are done with this part of the demo. Thank you. Thank you for watching this Catholic Charities Netsmart training video. Please be sure to watch the others in the series for a further understanding of the Netsmart Avatar product.